Hulk Hogan walked so Dwayne The Rock Johnson and John Cena could run. Said no one. All right, it is time for another Puppet Protector Pre-mordem tribute. And this is where we take a celebrity who is still living and pay early respects to them by ranking their past work. For this edition, we are acknowledging the one and only Terry Gene Bollea, aka Mr. Hulk Hogan. So let's give you guys a little backstory. He was born in Augustus, Georgia on August 11th, 1953. And Hulk Hogan went on to become one of the most recognized professional wrestlers of the WWF in the 80s, thanks to his energetic, loud trash talk and exaggerated ringside behavior, which included ripping his shirt off and listening for the crowd's cheers. And this soon led to the epidemic throughout the wrestling world known as Hulkamania. Over the decade, Hogan became a 5-time WWF champion, won consecutive Royal Rumble matches, and successfully caused comedian Richard Belzer to black out and hit his head after he was put in a guillotine chokehold on his talk show back in 1985. Hogan's popularity spawned dozens of fans known as Hulksters, and soon he had his own album, Hulk Rules, his own cereal, Saturday morning cartoon, and about 170 different action figures. All this helped lead to his prosperous film career, which we will be focusing on today in this tribute. So even though Hulk Hogan went on to become a reality television star and a self-proclaimed racist, there is a chance he will be dead someday. So to pay our premature respects, I will be ranking all 11 of his films.
Are you serious right now, bro?
Tyler here also suffered through these movies with me. So I just must warn you guys, this list will not include any cameos or voiceover roles. Also, it won't include his leaked sex tape, which kind of sucks because that probably was his best work. So, coming in at number 11 as the most insufferable movie from Hulk Hogan is Little Hercules.
Okay, I was going to say, if you say anything else besides Little Hercules, I'm going to beat your ass.
From 2009, featuring the strongest kid in the world. His name is Richard Sandrake. So if Tommy Wiseau directed this, the acting would have been kind of an improvement. So a little synopsis: young Hercules decides to leave Mount Olympus to travel to Earth, specifically Burbank, California, because he wants to be immortal. He goes there, makes friends, goes to school without having to register, which, don't know how that worked out. And he joins a track and field team. Hogan plays Zeus, his father. Pretty much all of his scenes are done at Mount Olympus, so they have him stiffly delivering his lines in front of a green screen with special effects so bad they make a Neil Breen movie look like it was directed by James Cameron. We got legendary actors like Elliot Gould, Robin Gibbons, Judd Nelson, and John Hurt, and you'd swear they had never acted a day in their life. I should be fair because John Hurt actually was in the first Sharknado movie, so I don't think he's really picky when it comes to scripts. So what is your gripe with it?
It reeks of like the early 2000s straight to DVD movie quality, like a talking cat.
You can talk, but only once.
I don't make the rules, Phil.
It's so fucking bad. The acting is stilted. The CGI, if you even want to call it that, is god awful. It's just bad. Hulk's son, Nick.
Nick's the bully.
Yes, he was supposed to have like 1 or 2 lines in one scene, but the director liked his acting so much that they actively wrote more scenes for him.
Yo, see, I said I wanted that board.
Well, if it isn't super freak, you got everything, little man.
Take that for what it's worth.
They even have his daughter in the movie. They have his ex-wife Linda in this. There's a fight between Hulk Hogan, and we get a guest appearance from Big Show, and that's the greatest thing about that scene, that he's there. And they have this race at the end of the movie where little Hercules is obviously sped up around the track, and they couldn't even waste their time filming the whole thing where they'll loop the same scene. You'll see the same people in the background over and over again. And I'm watching this thinking to myself, who is this movie for? This is obviously was made to instantly put in the $1 DVD bin at Walmart. Coming in at number 10, got The Secret Agent Club.
One of the few that I did not get around to watching.
You missed out, man, because Hulk Hogan plays a James Bond type secret agent named Ray Chase, and he steals a high-powered ray gun from an evil villain named Eve. However, Ray keeps his spy job a secret from his son Jeremy, and he goes as far as to pretend to be a clumsy, awkward toy store owner. So from the opening scene to like the double life premise, I have a feeling that the director or writer saw the movie True Lies and was like, I can make this movie much worse. So Eve, the villain, sends her unreliable right-hand henchman named Rex, and it's played by Richard Mall, who you guys might remember from the show Night Court. He's sent to kidnap Ray and to get the ray gun back from Jeremy and his friends. So this movie's more focused on the kid and his crew. It's a low-budget kids movie, but I don't think it's even good enough to play in a Disney Channel or ABC Family. Actually, one of the reasons it's one of Hulk Hogan's better performances is because he's hardly in the movie. Most of the movie, he's a kidnapped victim, shackled while they torture him with the video loop of his son saying, "Where is it?" And I'm thinking to myself, are they trying to torture him or the audience? They got other incredible actors like Barry Botswick, James Hong, and that makes you wonder, how big was that check for them to be in this hot garbage? I mean, they even got the dad from Ferris Bueller's Day Off on this. And this movie has such a flimsy plot with unintentionally bad dialogue, and the end where the kids break into like this heavily guarded villain's base. They brought out so many convenient random items, from a Teddy Ruxpin doll to a slip and slide. I could no longer suspend the disbelief and give it the "it's just a kids film" pass. Coming in at number 9 is Mackenzie's Island. So this one potentially could be the sequel to Secret Agent Club, because Hulk Hogan plays a retired secret agent named Joe who just wants to relax on his tropical paradise at his home, because as he says 8 or 9 times in the film, "I'm retired."
I'm retired from the Force.
Well, Billy, I quit the Force.
I am retired. I'm retired.
Don't get the wrong idea. I'm still retired. I don't care what it says or what it's about. I'm still retired.
You find a treasure map on the back of a turtle. And his former partner, Walter, played by Robert Vaughn, constantly badgers him to go find Mackenzie's treasure. And it's not until his friend, I believe his name is Billy, gets kidnapped, where he's like, all right, now I'll get involved. Also, who's after this treasure is a German woman named Sabrina, who joins the two of them, as well as the evil villain Alonzo, played by Grace Jones. Yes, the infamous Grace Jones, Mayday from James Bond, is in this movie. And as wacky and unhinged as her performance was, you could tell she had absolutely no direction for her acting.
Be a gentleman. And give me the map! Sabrina! I want my jewels back!
Actually, the only character that was more annoying was that damn talking pet parrot that Joe had.
I feel like if you had muted the parrot's lines, you could still understand what the is happening. It felt like an unnecessary tack-on to the film.
Big Show, I mentioned earlier, he's in this movie too. In that fight that they have inside the tent, I thought it was decent. In this movie, I distinctly remember I chuckled once.
This stupid-ass movie actually made me laugh.
Coming in at number 8, we got Santa with Muscles. Hulk Hogan plays an eccentric, self-absorbed millionaire. One day, while evading the police, he hides out in a mall, and then he disguises himself in a Santa costume, hits his head, and gets amnesia, which soon has him convinced he's the real Santa Claus. Meanwhile, Ed Bigley Jr. plays an evil scientist who wants to take over an orphanage to get some magic crystals that are actually buried underneath it.
Merry Christmas, kids. We gave you a nonsensical plot line.
This has some aspects of a lesser version of the Santa Claus movie, but obviously much worse. On the plus side, you get not one, but 2 actors from that 70s show. You get Don Starks, who plays the Lenny character, and you might remember he played Donna's father on the show. And you also get a very young Mila Kunis playing one of the orphan kids. So for anyone out there who's saying, oh, Die Hard isn't even a Christmas movie, this feels less like one. Because no matter how much they force that title into the dialogue or reference to holiday or make a terrible Christmas pun like Santa, you slay me. You never get like that Yuletide spirit.
One of my favorite lines was, watch out, he's got a candy cane. Another dumbass line that caught me off guard. The villains in this movie look like a reject Batman's rogue gallery. And don't even get me started on the ending. The ending is just like, what? Was this a Christmas movie?
Another thing, Hulk Hogan's character's name is not important, but towards the end of the movie, they mentioned something about his upbringing and his connection to Ed Bigley's character. And I was like, that's both convenient and out of left field at the same time. It's really no surprise the movie was pulled from theaters after 2 weeks. But I think the most interesting thing about this movie is that it was produced by Jordan Belfort, Mr. Wolf of Wall Street himself. Coming in at number 7, The Ultimate Weapon.
This is one I did not see.
Hulk Hogan dons an awful brush cut wig, and he plays Ben Hardball Cutter, a national security consultant who eventually must prevent an evil wealthy entrepreneur and the IRA from murdering his estranged daughter, Mary Kate. The thing is, for an action movie, this is incredibly boring since the action parts are so few and far between, the terrible dialogue, and even his one-liners are weak. He's confronted in a strip club, and they want him to leave, so one of the guys tells him, take a one-way ticket and ram it up your ass. So his response is,
there's one thing you need to learn. Don't piss me off.
Bro needs a crash course in Roadhouse.
At the risk of sounding like pervy, the strip club scenes were the most entertaining for the set design, of course.
For production value, of course.
So his daughter actually is working at the strip club, and he hadn't seen her in 20 years. And she's like, well, you never were here for me. What are you doing here? So he's got a new partner because his original partner died. So his son takes over the Cobra name. So they call him Cobra Jr. And he takes an instant liking to Mary Kate, which obviously Cutter is blatantly against, because that's my daughter. Don't get near her, brother. But the second Cobra and MK are alone, he forces a kiss on her, which surprisingly she reciprocates. And if for some reason Cutter is cool with him hooking up with his daughter by the end of the movie. Okay, sorry, Mr. Hogan, you're not winning us over so far, but maybe you can with the number 6 movie, and that is 3 Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain.
Okay, I thought it was a very okay, zany kids 90s movie. However, I can't take, what is his name? Jim Varney, because I grew up watching some of the Ernest movies, and I can't take him seriously as a villain in this movie.
This is the 4th and final of the franchise, also surprisingly the lowest grossing one. And in this one, the pint-sized ninjas go to the amusement park Mega Mountain for the youngest kid Tum Tum's birthday. And while they're there, an evil master criminal named Medusa, played by a heavily Botoxed Lonnie Anderson, and her henchmen take over the theme park in an attempt to get a huge ransom from the park owner. So, as Tyler mentioned, Jim Varney plays the lead henchman, Lothar, and Hulk Hogan is David Dragon. And he does like a sort of like Power Rangers-esque TV show, and coincidentally, he's performing at the park that day.
As his last appearance.
I'd seen the first 3 Ninjas movie before this, and as bad as that one was, I still have the Rocky loves Emily part living rent-free in my head.
Rocky loves Emily. Rocky loves Emily.
In this one, Rocky, the older brother, has a girlfriend named Jennifer, and I'm like, what happened to Emily? Plot hole. I always found the idea of children vanquishing like highly trained ninjas to be, I don't know, kind of far-fetched. The fight choreography in this movie is really good. There's some scenes where the kids are doing flips and splits, and it looks like them, not like a stuntman or anything like that. And I'm like, that looks really good. but I can't buy grown men getting their asses kicked by 8-year-olds. I just can't believe it. Like, this is worse than the first one. And Hulk Hogan doesn't do a whole lot in here either, because he's either getting tranquilized or tied up by the bad guys. And then Victor Wong, the grandfather, he was in all the films. He even has less screen time than Hulk Hogan does, which I don't blame him, because he was probably like, you guys got me for like one afternoon and that's it, because I'm going to die after this movie anyway. But Jim Varney, man, he is a veteran, and he acts circles around everyone in this movie. And while this movie is worse than even the worst Ernest film, that is right. I'm saying this is worse than Ernest Goes to Africa. You don't necessarily want to slit your throat while watching. And that should be on the DVD right there. Now we're at the tolerable 5. And coming at number 5 is Assault on Devil's Island. Also called, I believe, The Shadow Warrior, or something like that.
Yes, that was one of the subtitles, I think. These were the last 2 I didn't see.
Hulk Hogan plays Mike McBride, and he's head of the SEAL team along with the late, great Carl Weathers. So it's the Rocky 3 reunion we all wanted, you know? And while trying to take out an evil kingpin boss, one of the SEAL team members double crosses them and eventually kidnaps a gymnastic team, holding them hostage at Devil's Island. McBride and his team, along with his supervisor, Andy, played by Martin Kove, who played Kreese in the Karate Kid movies and Cobra Kai as well. They also have the undercover agent Hunter, played by the 90s softcore movie legend Shannon Tweed. And they all lead this martial arts assault to save the hostages. This is a TV movie. I will keep that in mind when I say this, but this is one of the blandest action movies I have ever seen. It's like eating an air sandwich, which if you have, I'm sure it was equally forgettable. But Shannon Tweed does have a brief topless scene in the beginning, which brought me back to the days of watching her in Night Eyes 2 or Indecent Behavior on Skinamax back in the day. But this is such a waste of 96 minutes for everyone, especially Carl Weathers. And I was reading, it's considered a precursor to the Expendables, but even that is like an insult to that franchise. Number 4, Assault on Death Mountain.
Okay, the sequel.
The sequel, yes.
Right,
so
I'm
the
ready.
crew from the original film reunite to stop an evil scientist from launching a biochemical terrorist attack on Seattle, Washington, of all places. And this one has a lot of the same problems as the original, including additional problems like the opening scene where they infiltrate a fancy Austrian party to rescue a little girl whose father has taken her from their mother, which has nothing to do with the movie's plot, or the fact that Shannon Tweed keeps her top on through the whole entire film. But this movie has more unintentional humor than the first one. And even though it's just as forgettable as that one, I recall having a few mild chuckles here and there. Plus, the final attack on the villain's compound, where they have to stop the missile from launching a deadly gas, as well as they need to get an antidote for Hulk Hogan's character, who was poisoned. It has like a decent shootouts and enough explosions to go, I'm not totally bored. Number 3, Mr. Nanny. So Hulk Hogan played the former wrestler, and that's a stretch. His name is Sean Armstrong. His former manager, Bert, played by George Jefferson himself, Sherman Hemsley, gets him a job as a bodyguard for a business tech boss. But actually, he's hired to guard the business tech's 2 kids who are constantly trying to kill him.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And there's a microchip, of course, there are in these movies. And that controls a weapon that an evil crime boss named Tommy Thanatos wants to get. And he's played by former New York Dolls singer David Johansen. Yes, I'm talking about Buster Poindexter himself is the villain in this movie. His performance is amazing. He's the best part of the whole movie. Also, the scene with Hogan on an exercise bike going like at top speed was hilarious as
One of the best scenes of the Hulkster in a movie. Him fighting bad guys in the tutu.
The movie is awful, of course. It's a mixed bag, you know? Hulk Hogan covered in red dye, yelling at the kids in his Hulkamania voice. Mildly amusing. Hulk Hogan in a pink tutu doing ballet. Kind of hacky.
Strange parallel to his film career. Ex-wrestlers aren't in demand. That just says it all for this movie.
Okay, coming in at number 2, what's it gonna be? Suburban Commando.
Ooh, all right.
Hulk Hogan playing an intergalactic space warrior with an extraterrestrial name, Shemp Ramsey. So after a semi-botched mission where he fails to keep the planetary president from being killed, Shemp's spaceship is damaged, so he has to land on Earth to repair it. And while there, he moves in with the Wilcox family until a couple of bounty hunters track him down. I'm ashamed to admit this. I voluntarily saw this movie in the theater.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Got the first-hand scoop then.
I was blinded by the credible actors in this movie, like Christopher Lloyd, you got Shelley Duvall, and Larry Miller, who, in my opinion, are all slumming it in this film. And they pad the movie out with a lot of set pieces involving Shep interacting with random people, like the mailman, the rude neighbors that live next door, and a mime who's like performing to nobody in the middle of like the midnight for some reason. Unfortunately and conveniently, he looks just like a human, so no one realizes that Shemp is an actual alien. You get one-liners that are extremely basic, like
Tag, you're it.
Or
I hate suburbia.
Or
Game over. You lose.
But we can't forget Christopher Lloyd's timeless line.
Christ! I was frozen today!
My favorite line in this fucking movie. It's one of those movies that it's so crappy that you can't help but find it enjoyable.
All right, what is the best movie that Hulk Hogan starred in? Coming in at number 1, 1989's No Holds Barred. That's right. Hulk Hogan's first movie was when he peaked as an actor. And if you thought The Iron Claw is one of the best wrestling films, you're right. But for this being Hulk Hogan's first starring role, I think this is the best you're gonna get. So Hogan plays a good-natured, popular wrestler named Rip Thomas, while legendary actor Kurt Fuller plays an evil network boss who wants Rip to join his network to help boost the ratings. And by the way, Kurt Fuller's character really hates jock asses.
I find that a little hard to swallow, you jockass!
Kurt Fuller, man, he's great at playing like evil sleazeballs, whether it's the mayor's right-hand man in Ghostbusters 2 or Karl Rove. And Hulk Hogan plays a professional wrestler, and it's very convincing. Who would have thought, right?
Who would have thought?
Any other scenes, his dialogue was too stiff as usual, which wasn't too often because most of his lines are just him growling and stalling anyway. So Kurt Fuller's character tries to find a new wrestler. So he starts a show called, get this great title, The Battle of the Tough Guys. This is where we meet Zeus, played by Tiny Lester. Debo from Friday, doing lots of grunting and yelling too. And that unibrow he has, I thought was a great touch to his already cross-eyed look.
I will say this movie's like love interest.
Dude, that's a positive of this movie because the girl who plays Rip's love interest, Samantha, gorgeous.
I'll say that. Yeah, she's a very attractive woman.
This movie is such a vanity project, you know? He's like beating up everybody he crosses path without getting a scratch. The pretty girl like instantaneously likes him the second she sees him.
I mean, he defies physics in like one of the first few scenes.
And there's so many unintentionally funny scenes, from like the fight at the bar, the cheesy soundtrack, the over-the-top acting, and so on. But what makes this movie the best is it has the greatest scene in cinema history between Hulk Hogan and a terrified limo driver.
What's that smell?
And there you have it. That is the list of Hulk Hogan movies from worst to not as bad.
Enjoyable while drunk or under the influence of something.
Yes. And this is the part where we do a eulogy. I believe you had something nice you wanted to say about Hulk Hogan.
Yes. So I'm just gonna channel the spirit of Macho Man Randy Savage real quick. So yes. Oh yeah, brother. The Hulkster. He was a great man, a great wrestler, but not so great an actor. Stilted, awkward, little showboaty. Oh yeah. Can never be
against the Cream. And one day, when he's gone and joining me in the wrestling ring in the sky, oh, you know it's on.
I'm back. What happened?
Sorry, folks. It won't happen again.
Like and subscribe, folks.